Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dean Gross from Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been focused on helping my clients implement the Microsoft security and compliance products for the past 7 years. Before that, I did a lot of work with Office 365 and SharePoint Server. I've earned over 6 different security, compliance, and identity certifications from Microsoft for the last couple of years.
And hi, everyone. I'm Steve Ross. I'm a technology strategist at Microsoft. Been in the industry a little over 20 years and about 10 at Microsoft. And in my role, I work with Insight to help our collective customers sort of improve their security posture, among other things. And yeah, great to be on the call today, and welcome to everyone.
We're glad you made it to our discussion about transforming enterprise security. But for you to have reason to stay tuned, it's important to describe why enterprise security needs to be transformed. Why are new perspectives needed, and how can an organization make a start at addressing these modern challenges? We hope to give you some practical thoughts about these topics today. Let's begin with a quick overview of just a few of the modern challenges. First off, the threat landscape is constantly broadening. There are many avenues of ingress and attack. Think about things like endpoints, traditional and non-traditional operational technology, IoT, and edge devices. Identities, the number of them, and the challenge of implementing security measures such as multi-factor authentication and artificial intelligence-driven identity usage monitors across all of these. Data, ensuring each piece of data is classified and protected accordingly, and the protections against bad actors holding your data hostage, otherwise known as ransomware, or malicious deletion, alteration, or exfiltration, are very strong. There's thousands of cloud apps with an ever-increasing proliferation across your businesses, and way outside of your perimeter, and with differing levels of trustworthiness. Different authentication systems, et cetera, make these challenges to address. There's many other things that we haven't even touched on yet, such as network, hardware, et cetera. With a threat landscape that's so broad, where does an organization start? And how can it hope to bring substantial security to all of them?
Absolutely, Dean. That's so true. That's sort of the first challenge that we're hoping to address today. The second is that there's really a staffing problem today with strong security folks. It's really hard to acquire strong security folks to help deal with that threat landscape that Dean was just talking about. In the U.S. alone, we're facing a cybersecurity talent shortage. Nearly sort of 1 in 3 security jobs just going unfulfilled right now. And it's very difficult to acquire talented security practitioners because they're so highly demanded. And because they're so highly demanded, it's also difficult to retain them, right? And so, the team of security resources that you do have in your organization, they're facing just unprecedented numbers of alerts that they're trying to process through, and incidents and so on. And this is what we call alert fatigue. And it's a very real problem for organizations today, trying to find that sort of needle in the haystack kind of alert that is actually referencing a real attack that's happening at the organization. So it's really critical to deal with that as well. So that security team is that second issue or challenge that we want to address today.
And finally, our last challenge for today is there's a common approach where organizations pursue the most highly rated or reviewed security product for each area of challenge that they're aware of. One vendor solution for endpoint protection, several other vendor solutions for network protection, other vendors providing data protection or cloud apps. This approach has seemed logical for many years, but it's resulted in unmanageable complexity. Gartner did a big study a couple of years ago and found that 78% of chief information security officers have 16 or more tools in their vendor portfolio. About 12% have 46 or more. Having so many security vendors results in complex security operations and increased security headcount. With dozens of disconnected solutions and vendors, all with little incentive to cooperate with other vendors, the one who suffers is the company trying to protect themselves in a world of modern threats. Let's investigate each of these challenges a bit more and also try to provide practical suggestions you can follow to help address each challenge. We'll start with the ever-increasing threat landscape. Steve, maybe you can describe this challenge by speaking to the attack chain and that malicious actors often use.
Yeah, happy to do it. One of the sort of facets of this threat landscape is the external threats. Attackers are flexible and they can use a variety of attack techniques to, during their attack, to reach their ultimate objective. And that could be stealing data. It could be sort of making data inaccessible, kind of an extortion-based attack that we call ransomware. So lots of different ways that that might happen. But Microsoft offers a suite of extended detection and response capabilities that provide coverage across these most common attack chains. And these XDR capabilities provide advanced threat detections with a focus on sort of producing high quality alerts. I talked a little bit earlier about alert fatigue. And so we really want solutions that are going to bubble up real actionable alerts, as well as help us sort of with automated investigations of these alerts and being able to respond to them quickly. Now, some of these tools that are designed to really integrate and work closely together are things like Microsoft Defender for Office 365. And this provides protection for email, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, and all the other Office 365 capabilities. Then there's Defender for Endpoint, which provides endpoint detection and response capabilities, covering a pretty broad range of endpoints like workstations, servers, mobile devices, and more. And there's also Defender for Cloud. And this provides additional capabilities sort of to protect those server VMs and coverage for the IaaS and PaaS solutions that maybe you have deployed in cloud, things like server VMs, as I mentioned, SQL servers, containers, and more. And, Dean, there's also sort of less common endpoints that we need to protect as well.
That's very true, Steve. We've got a lot of clients that are trying to have a more comprehensive view of their security portfolio, and that includes the IoT devices as well as the OT operational technology devices. And your product, Defender for IoT, helps us understand what the assets are and what the threats are for these devices that IT organizations have typically not been involved with securing. It is a real great enhancement to the overall posture security practice and helps us understand that there's more going on and makes it harder for the attackers to succeed.
Definitely. And, another area that we want to protect against is sort of identities, I would say. This is kind of the new security boundary of the day. And we have solutions like Azure Active Directory Identity Protection and Microsoft Defender for Identity. And these collectively cover the identity stages of attacks, providing detection of threats for cloud-based identities, like in Azure Active Directory, for example, and for on-premise based directories and identities, such as those in Windows Server Active Directory and even in Active Directory Federation services. And then in addition to that, we have a solution called Defender for Cloud Apps. One of the things Dean mentioned is there's these thousands of SaaS applications that your organizations are probably deploying, even if the IT department doesn't know about it. And providing coverage for these software as a service based apps is super important as well, from both kind of that attack detection perspective, as well as from a data exfiltration perspective.
Microsoft created a new product a few years ago called Sentinel. And this is a security information and event management, or SIEM, that also provides security orchestration, automation, and response, or SOAR. This provides unified visibility to all of these different tools, so you don't have to go to many different systems, which greatly simplifies the level of effort for the people doing the security investigations. This whole integrated example, let's think about how all of this ties together. So the attackers start over here on the left. They get into a personal webmail. This is a very common attack technique. It's frequently successful, frequently blocked also. But once they get into the email, they go to the corporate device, open an attachment. that might have some malware in it. Defender for Endpoint then detects this abnormal behavior and automatically investigates it. It creates an automatic sequence to remediate the threat and prompts an analyst to approve the cleanup, or it could be automatically approved. These signals then go out to the Microsoft machine learning and artificial intelligence system, where all of the threat intelligence gets shared around the world, so that if one person gets attacked in another country, that knowledge gets shared around the world, which is a fantastic thing that Microsoft's able to do because of their extensive network around the world and all of the different customers that they have. While the analyst is doing their investigation, the damage is contained. Conditional access can block the user or prevent the device from sending any data to any other system, so that the blast radius or the impact on the overall organization is minimized. And then Microsoft Sentinel can initiate some additional workflows to do things like shutting down firewalls, blocking IP addresses, totally disconnecting and interrupting the abilities of the attacker to get back to the command and control servers.
Yeah, I think that's a great walkthrough, just sort of demonstrating the way these products integrate together. But organizations also face insider risks, where trusted insiders with access to sensitive resources might choose to abuse that access for a variety of reasons. And so Microsoft also has our insider risk management capabilities that are built into Microsoft 365. And these help minimize internal risks by enabling you to detect, investigate, and act on malicious as well as inadvertent kind of activities that are going on in your organization. And, up till now, we've been talking about the security products and threats, but another way to look at this really is Insight's approach as a partner that breaks down cloud security into composable topics.
We put together this reference framework a few years ago in an effort to try to help steer our conversations with our customers to talk about different topics that are common to many different organizations. A lot of times, big organizations have many different teams. And by breaking it out like this, we find that we can focus the conversation on, the group that's running the SOC or that's focused on information security or endpoint management. And by looking at different products and how they fit into the overall security topics, it helps keep everything from getting so overwhelming. It's a big complex space, and this has been a pretty effective way to help us plan our projects and have meetings with different clients. This is focused on O365. I've got a different version of this that's focused on Azure. So depending upon which cloud you're involved with, we've got some ways to help plan our projects out and make sure that we can get more work done quicker and decrease the risk as fast as possible.
Yep, absolutely. And so, Dean, we've talked about the first challenge, this challenge of the ever-increasing landscape. So what are some of the practical things that you would suggest to address this ever-increasing threat landscape?
The first thing I'd say is we need to focus on continuous improvement in the pursuit of excellence rather than perfection. No organization is completely secure from all potential threats. You need to be realistic and drive a better and better posture by tracking your Microsoft Secure score. We've got a little, let's see if we can get that to go. Looks like my demonstration isn't going to work for some reason, but the Secure Score is part of Office 365. Everybody gets it. There's no additional cost. They provide a scoreboard that's broken down by identity, devices, and applications. We get recommendations that are coming from Microsoft, as well as a lot of other independent third-party organizations like NIST or CISA. And by implementing these different recommended actions, you're going to improve your security posture very quickly and make it a lot more difficult for the attackers. Within here, we get some trends that are going to show how things are improving so that the management team can look at how things have gotten better. They can make assignments to different people. You can assign these recommended actions out to Microsoft Teams where you chat about it and decide what to do, or you can send it off to Planner where you can assign somebody and have an action item list with names associated with every single item. If some of these don't apply to you, you can exempt yourself from them or say that you've got it covered from a third party. Very flexible. It's a great place to get started, and you can get busy tomorrow and improve your score in a couple days. It does take a little while for the score to get changed, but I highly recommend starting with this. Steve, was there anything else that you wanted to add on to about this? I mean,
not really about Secure Score. I think you covered that super well, but I know that Insight also has solutions and services that can help customers. And that might also be a good kind of recommendation to run with.
That's true, Steve. So we can do a high-level security assessment to help put together the overall strategy that ties together Office 365 and Azure and your data centers and any other clouds. Or we can help out with specific tactical implementation of specific features that are in here, since we're looking at application security or device security or identity security. A lot of teams might not have familiarity with that. And since we work with a lot of different customers, we've got experience with all of that and can help people have the confidence that making some changes to their environment is going to benefit the organization.
Definitely.
Oops.
Well, I think the next challenge that we wanted to cover, the second challenge really that organizations commonly face, is revolving around that security team and the challenges related to that. So let's jump into that one next. The threats have grown at an alarming rate, as we've been discussing. And cyber crimes now expected to cost the world $10.5 trillion annually by 2025. And that's up from $3 trillion a decade ago and $6 trillion in 2021. So it's really a hockey stick growth there. So clearly, as these attacks increase, our defenses also have to keep up. Now, annually, Microsoft security solutions block literally billions of malware threats and malicious emails. But it takes more than technology to address these modern security challenges. It really takes a combination of leading technologies, comprehensive threat intelligence, and highly skilled individuals, people with skills to be able to sort of truly have an effective security posture. But I mentioned earlier, in the US alone, we're facing that massive cybersecurity shortage, talent shortage, and that really is happening globally, not just in the US. And that shortage is felt in really practical ways. It's felt in things like outcomes like the time it takes for organizations to even detect that a breach has happened. And many times that's well over 280 days before an organization even knows that they've been breached. So all of this points to the need for organizations to ensure that their cybersecurity team, that they have really strong, relevant skills, and that they're continuing to grow these skills and experience. But due to that shortage of talent that I mentioned, that I sort of referred to before, acquiring strong talent is a huge challenge. And because of the demand that I mentioned too in the industry, sort of retaining that talent is also equally difficult. Now, besides the challenge of acquiring and retaining strong security talent, there's the difficulty of alert fatigue that I mentioned. And this is a real problem with security teams today. Typically SIEM systems they have so many different sort of systems across the network that they're ingesting these alerts from. And that results in just thousands and thousands of alerts and incidents that a security team has to process through. And it really ends up resulting in a high percentage of just noise and a few of those signals that are indicating a true potential compromise. And so the combination of all of this means that critical alerts can be easily missed, and that gives bad actors more and more time to be able to accomplish their mission. Right? So it's a huge challenge around the security team. Now, one way to help address security team challenges is to ensure that they're continuously growing their skill set, that they're always learning new skills and growing their experience. And there are a lot of good resources out there that they can use to help continue to build that skill set, including things like Microsoft's enablement portal called the Security Center Learning Hub. And I think we're going to take a second actually to show you that, to do a quick demo of that Learning Hub. Dean, I think
actually,
is that right?
Yeah, well, Steve, I've had a little bit of a demo snafu there, but I'll just talk about it. And the thing that I would have been showing is that the Learning Hub is part of the M365 Security Center. And instead of having to go out and search all over the internet to get training and get out of date information, Microsoft has the Learning Hub right in there for you so that you can easily find a short video, 3 or 5 minute long, or watch a longer webinar, or read some training materials that are highly focused on what your role is, whether you're beginner or advanced. And it's all in one handy dandy place, which I think everybody should take advantage of. It'll really help your team get up to speed real quick. And, they've done a fantastic job of providing current information. That's the other thing, is it's always kept up to date so that you have confidence that you're not getting something from last year's or even last month's user interface or functionality.
That's true. Yeah, it's always being updated because things are always changing. And the second recommendation I think we should talk about is looking to XDR solutions. I mentioned these just a little bit earlier, but these can really help reduce alert fatigue. XDR applies deep product knowledge and machine learning algorithms to correlate literally thousands of sort of lower fidelity anomalous activities to kind of bring them up into smaller numbers of high fidelity alerts and investigations. And the goal really is to identify which alerts are associated with actual security incidents so that your security team can take quick action to mitigate the threat. So that's definitely another recommendation. And of course, another helpful way to address your security team challenges is to look to someone like Insight, who has many different managed security offerings. And Dean, I bet you could speak to some of those.
That's true, Steve. A couple of years ago, we were one of Microsoft's first partners to implement Sentinel, and we've been using it to provide security operations monitoring services to customers since day one. Our team will keep an eye on things for you around the clock so that your people can go home and get some sleep. And if you don't have enough people, you don't have to hire more people and train them up. You can just have us do that for you. A lot of our customers have found it to be very helpful. It gives them a little bit more peace of mind that they're not going to come in on Monday and realize that something bad's been going on since Friday night when they went home. There's, in addition to the managed Sentinel services, we can help monitor and manage your firewalls and virtual machines and endpoints and many other systems. So our managed services portfolio continues to expand extensively. As we look at this slide, we can see that there's quite a few different capabilities here. We'll help plan everything out, help get it built, identify your overall compliance requirements, and figure out how to help govern everything so you don't get nasty findings from your auditors. And once everything is planned, part of the planning process might be creating some workshops based upon some Microsoft technologies or even other technologies. As a very large solution integrator, we have resources from just about every security IT company out there. So no matter what you need help with, we can probably get in a subject matter expert to help out and get you on your road to improving your overall security.
Definitely. So the last challenge that we'll address today in this talk is really focused on the many different security vendors that customers end up relying on, and the complexity and the cost of this sort of plethora of security vendors and tools that it brings. Additional cost, additional complexity. This is definitely the one we'll talk about next. Now, many of our clients have purchased a wide variety of security products over the years, and this is understandable. And it seemed like a good idea sort of at the time to implement the best of breed tools. But this has turned out to be a huge challenge for IT professionals. They have to sort of master many different products. And this, of course, means that they have to retain quite a bit of staff that have skill sets in these different products. And additionally, this multi-vendor approach is costly, the average being about $30 per user when you're implementing multiple different solutions from multiple different vendors. And that's just a licensing cost, not to mention the soft cost, as I mentioned, of retaining the talent and trying to find ways to integrate all of these disparate solutions. So that's sort of summarizing this problem of security vendor sprawl.
Over the years, Microsoft has invested to mature their security products with a focus on tight integration. It is truly the case that adding 2 or 3 Microsoft products together is substantially more secure than attempting to integrate security tools from several vendors. These efforts by Microsoft have made my job a lot easier. I used to spend many hours troubleshooting system integration tasks in my clients' data centers, and I haven't had to do that for a long time. Trying to get one of the big things that we've noticed through our partnership with Microsoft and a lot of other vendors is that all of the vendors seem to be working better together. You can actually find instructions from one vendor about how to integrate with Microsoft and vice versa. It's becoming more and more common. The co-opetition between the organizations has really improved. You go into the Microsoft Defender portal, and there's direct links out there to other organizations to get threat intelligence or managed security services. Sentinel has connections to 80 or 90 different vendor products. So we don't find it very difficult to integrate with anything that our customers have, as long as it's been added in the last 10 years or so.
Definitely. Yeah. So just speaking to this idea of one of the recommendations there on that slide is to consolidate security solutions and vendors. I don't think you have to give up the idea of sort of a market validated security solution, one that has been sort of verified by independent think tanks. You can still sort of use these independent think tanks to kind of help guide decisions. But what you really want to do is find these solutions that integrate really well together. And the next couple of slides, we're just going to spend like 10 seconds on. It's really just to show you that the Microsoft solutions that we've been highlighting have been verified by some of these independent think tank organizations like Gartner and Forrester, just to demonstrate that we have these products addressing these specific scenarios that are in the leader quadrant, that have been recognized as leading in the industry. And because they're all from Microsoft, they integrate really tightly together. And so that integration story becomes extremely important as you're especially trying to sort of identify what's going on in an environment and quickly be able to process through to a remediation, as Dean kind of walked through that example earlier. Yep, so I think we can skip down to the next slide after the Forrester slide there. Yep. So, Dean, we've covered a lot of material here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, does someone have a question?
Oh, there's a couple questions in chat if you didn't notice them.
Yeah, so we'll get to those. We just have 2 more slides, I think, and then we're done, and we can entertain some of those questions. But just to finish up the content here, Dean, we've covered a lot of material, but there's a couple of things, or I should ask, are there a couple of things that you would really want attendees to walk away from this presentation with that they would definitely remember?
Yeah. A couple things. We've heard a lot about zero trust over the last few years, and it's really a philosophy. It's not a product, and how to rapidly modernize your environment to stop trusting things just because it's at a certain place or it's coming from a certain system. You need to revalidate and re-verify, reauthorize all the time, every identity, every device, all of your different traffic. It's a new way of thinking, and how to do this. You've got to prioritize what activities are going to be the most impactful. You really need to focus on your identity security perimeter. You're focusing on your firewalls is no longer adequate. We're all sitting at home. We're not even behind the firewall. So you've got to have other controls in place. You need to put some measures in place to protect against ransomware. This would include strong endpoint protections, email protections, and ensuring that your data backups are effective and protected. You need to classify and protect your data. Make sure that you're focused on the most important data. What's your critical data that's going to affect your ability to stay in business? And you need to work on improving your security operations. There's a lot of new capabilities. The artificial intelligence and machine learning that Microsoft Office offers is phenomenal. Leveraging that in many different cases can really cut down on the false positives and provide a more confidence that your systems are as secure as they can be. One other thing I wanted to mention is that we're a very large integrated solution provider, one of the biggest in the world. We have extensive expertise in a wide variety of areas as shown here to help you do your digital transformation. This is a phrase that means a lot of different things to a lot of different organizations, but looking at your organization and whether you're trying to modernize the end user experience or some new applications, my cybersecurity colleagues and I will, help make sure that all of these different topics are done in a secure and compliant manner. And we can help by providing some new hardware and software, providing some consulting services to think through some of these complex problems. We deal with them all the time. For a lot of our clients, it's the first time that they've been thinking about it. So we'll share our experience with other customers so that you can avoid some of those pain points. And then if you don't want to do it yourself, we can provide some managed services to help out. And last but not least, I've got a slide here and we'll be sharing this out, but it gives a complete comprehensive list of all of our different cybersecurity services and some links out to some different documentation that we've made available that you might find helpful. And one more thing to mention, Steve, you have some other thoughts?
Yeah, just quickly, in the spirit of keeping this session actionable, we're leaving you with a few resources to explore. Again, you'll get a copy of this deck, as Dean said, and we hope that you'll find these resources useful to kind of plot a chart or a direction forward. And we definitely want to thank you as well for attending. And let's take a few minutes. I think we have maybe 5 or so minutes before we need to end the session, but let's take a few minutes and see if we can respond to some of the questions. What do you think, Dean?
Sure. Let's take a look through here. See that somebody mentioned the Ninja training out in the tech community. I'm a big fan of those. I've worked through a lot of that myself. It's a great effort. It's taking the quizzes can be pretty challenging. I like what they've done there and the ability to interact with other students and the teachers of the course and the authors of it is wonderful. comment about E5. The E5 offerings, there's several different variations of them, so we need a little bit more specifics about what exactly you're asking about there, Jason. If you can elaborate on that, we'll
Yeah, there was
dive
one.
into that.
There was one slide you guys were kind of just going over, like it had like IoT, the cloud, and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Defender for IoT is purchased totally separate from the Office and Microsoft 365 security bundles. Defender for IoT hooks into Azure, and it has a different pricing structure than the E5 licensing. It does feed up into Sentinel, and Sentinel's cost is based upon the amount of data that's ingested. But if you've already bought the M365 E5 things, a lot of that data is going to flow over into Sentinel for no additional costs.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the V5 is really the user-based licensing, right? And anything Defender Cloud, Defender IT, Defender SQL, Defender, anything else out there is really Azure consumption related, and it'll retire your Azure consumption number.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's say I see a question about on-premises AD. The Defender for Identity product will monitor your Windows domain controllers. It will evaluate the security posture configuration of those domain controllers and look for unexpected user behavior and help block a lot of very advanced types of attacks. You might have heard about pass the hash attacks or golden ticket attacks, those type of attacks. And is where Defender for Identity is going to help you with.
Well, I think the question, maybe Motion, if you can expand, but it sounds like you can't use a cloud-based technology like MDI because we're basically taking those signals and alerts and pushing those into Azure and then running AI and ML against that to then give you those detections. But I've got a 70,000 seat user, an insurance company, and another 46,000 seat user insurance company, and they have probably some pretty strict requirements. But nonetheless, I think, Dean, if you wanted to have a one-off with Motion and Contron, then we can probably help them with that.
Yeah, and diving deep into the compliance actual requirements and seeing how they're getting interpreted or misinterpreted would be a conversation worth having.
Definitely.
For DoD, that might be are they a government high, a GCC customer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Microsoft provides some tools to help you become CMMC compliant. If you actually work for DoD, there's a version of Azure and O365 that's DoD certified. We've got several clients that are DoD contractors that we're using cloud services for. So it's going to depend upon which branch of DoD and which exact contractual requirements you have, but don't give up on it yet.